Okay, get this. What if the tiny particles coming off a banana were somehow connected to your consciousness? It sounds wild, I know, but we're about to dive into a unified theory from a research paper by Harminder Singh that tries to connect modern physics, human biology, and ancient traditions into one single framework. It's a huge idea, so let's just jump right in.
All right, so this quote right here, this is the absolute foundation for everything we're about to talk about. The theory isn't just saying the human body is like the Earth. No, it's arguing that the body is a literal microcosm, that it operates on the exact same principles as our planet. This is the lens for the whole worldview, so let's keep it in mind. So, you might be asking, what's the point of a theory like this? Well, it's trying to answer a massive question. Are the tiniest particles we know of, neutrinos, somehow linked to things like traditional cooking and even consciousness itself? It's a heck of a claim. So let's follow the trail and see how the Philfo worldview tries to connect these seemingly random dots.
Okay, before we dive headfirst into all the particles and, alchemy, we've got to get the basic language down. So in this first part, let's just break down the two key terms that really unlock this whole way of thinking.
First things first, that name, Philfo. It's not just some made-up word. The source material actually breaks it down for us. It's a mashup of philosophy, self, and science, which it calls alphology, and it's meant to show how these three areas all come together. All right, the other big word here is cymatics. Now, you might have heard of this. It's the study of how vibrations create visual patterns. But in this theory, it's way more than that. It's basically a fundamental force of the universe. It's the how, the thing that supposedly grabs basic energy and particles and shapes them into what the theory calls 2D biomatter, which is like the very first layer of physical life. All right, got those two terms? Good. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the actual building blocks of this reality. We're going to see how this model says everything gets made, starting from the absolute smallest particles and forces. Think of this like a cosmic assembly line, happening in 4 steps. It all starts with the neutrino, a particle we actually know exists. From there, it supposedly creates something called the axion, which is a hypothetical particle in this model. That axion then interacts with the void, or just empty space, and poofed, out of that interaction, the very first substance, 2D matter, is supposedly born. But what's the engine driving this whole assembly line? Well, the paper points to something very real, the radioactive decay of potassium-40 into calcium-40. This is a natural process that's happening all the time, all around us. And the theory says this is what kicks out the neutrinos and other particles needed to get that whole sequence started. So where is all this happening? You've got the usual cosmic suspects, right? The Earth's core, stars, planets. But here's where it gets kind of wild. It's also supposedly happening inside your own body. And, wait for it, in everyday foods like bananas, avocados, and even milk. This is the theory's big bridge, from the cosmic scale right down to your kitchen. So of course, the theory has its own special names for these things. That main creative particle, they call it the Philfo grace particle. You can think of it like the seed of creation. And that seed is supposedly guarded by what it calls Janus particles, which seem to be about duality, hot and cold, that kind of thing. And the whole process is guided by that organizing force we just talked about, cymatics. Okay, so we've been talking big, cosmic stuff. Now, let's zoom all the way in, right down to us. This next bit is all about that core idea we started with, the human body as a perfect little mirror of the entire Earth and the universe. And this is where that human as a tiny Earth idea gets super specific. We're talking direct one-to-one comparisons. Rivers flowing are the same as blood flowing in your veins. A volcano erupting? That's just a planetary version of high blood pressure. An earthquake is a stroke. So in this view, these aren't just clever metaphors, they're the same physical events, just happening on totally different scales. And if that wasn't enough, the theory takes it a step further with another pretty bold claim. It says the human body isn't just a map of the universe, it's an active machine. It's a live bioaccelerator, basically doing the same kind of job as those giant particle accelerators like the one at CERN, but, organically. So if your body is an accelerator, what dimension are we even talking about? Well, forget what you've seen in the movies. This theory completely redefines the 5th dimension. It says it's not a place you can visit. It's simply a change in momentum, which, if you remember your physics class, is the literal definition of acceleration. So the 5th dimension isn't a place, it's a process. All right, we've gone from the entire universe to the human body
And for our last stop, we're heading to the kitchen. Let's see how all these huge, abstract ideas are supposedly put to work in the very real world of traditional cooking.
So, according to this worldview, traditional practices, especially from Indian alchemy and cooking, are about way more than just making dinner. They're actually seen as a kind of applied physics, a way to consciously handle these fundamental particles and energies to get specific results, like better health.
And here's a really practical example. Let's talk about dal, lentils. The theory claims that by changing the mix of different dals, you can change your body's energy. In summer, you'd use more Moong dal for a cooling effect. In winter, you'd up the Mahan dal for a heating effect. So cooking isn't just about taste, it's about regulating your own bioenergy with the seasons.
Okay, but how could this kitchen alchemy even work? Well, it all comes back to this idea of a single source for, well, everything. The theory calls it Ek Asulu Datu. Just imagine this primal cloud of stuff from which every element on the periodic table can be made. The idea is that the organizing force, cymatics, can pull elements out of this cloud to create things, and maybe even put them back.
And that really brings us full circle. Look, the Philfo worldview is a lot. It's this incredibly ambitious attempt to connect dots you probably never even thought to connect. Neutrinos, bananas, your blood pressure, ancient recipes, it's all in there. So it really leaves us with this one big question to chew on. Is it possible that ancient wisdom and modern physics are really describing the exact same reality, just using completely different languages to do it? It's definitely a provocative idea,